Another day, another New Orleans football video we are reacting to. How can the Saints set up Jameis Winston for success? Great question. I have the answer. The way that Jameis can succeed is if he's not asked to do that much. And he certainly shouldn't be asked to do that much when we have the playmakers that we have. They need to lean on Kamara. That is the number one answer to this question. Lean on Alvin. Screens, dump passes. Get him involved. I don't want a pitch clock on him. I heard it today. I was driving today and was listening to some sports talk radio, and the first question was, how many snaps should Kamara play? We need to treat this like week one, not like he's coming off of an injury or something. He needs to have the same workload that he would have in week one of the regular season. There's no reason he should have rust or anything to knock off. He needs to get in there and have a full workload. Beyond that, this is where, and I know it's hard to say because Taysom had 4 carries last week, but this is where you do sprinkle in a lot of Taysom. Keep the matchups or keep the scheme deceptive enough to where it's not just Jameis. It's not just Tampa Bay keying in on Jameis. Use a lot of Kamara, rotate Taysom in and out. I'm not saying at quarterback, but just bring him in every once in a while as a running back, bring him in for his quarterback plays, maybe even let him throw the ball a little bit. This is where you have to use a little razzle and dazzle. All right. This is where you got to be deceptive, be sneaky, be creative. None of those things I would describe Pete Carmichael as. So I'm asking a lot. How else can you help Jameis? Get the ball to the playmakers. You see it with quarterbacks like Mitchell Trubisky and Jared Goff and even Jameis. They are best when it's like a one-read route. Whenever they're looking, whether they're either rolling out and they have one read here, they call it levels. If you make it easy, that level progression, or even just a read, and for Jameis, it should be simple. It should be Olave and Thomas. I'm not saying don't only throw to them, but they should be utilizing plays that are simple in development to getting the ball into our playmakers' hands. Okay, so I don't need Jameis doing some insane progression tree and trying to find the 4th receiver. I need them dialing up plays that are quick. Jameis isn't running around doing anything crazy. He's getting the ball, boom, right there to Michael Thomas, boom, right there to Chris Olave, boom, screen to Shaheed or whatever it may be. Let the playmakers play. All right, Jameis just has to orchestrate the offense, but not do too much. That's how Jameis succeeds in this game.
Not much change from Saints practice compared to Wednesday's practice. The only difference on the injury report is Foster Moreau was upgraded to limited after he was a non-participant on Wednesday. Welcome back to The Dot, presented by Matt Bowers Auto Group. I'm Brett Kirchhoffer alongside Nick Underhill. We had a chance to talk with offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael today.
Can you even imagine? Imagine having a conversation with Pistol Pete after the last 3 games. I mean, I think if it was me and him, I think if we were doing an interview, I think we would just stare at each other. I think it would just be where would I even begin? And he's not going to say anything.
They talked a little bit about Jameis Winston, and if he were able to go, he said, look, I'm confident in what we've seen Jameis have success in recent years. I just have to put him in those same positions for him to have success. Does it sound like this team can be effective if Jameis?
This is the moments where I'm just like, what are we doing? We've seen Jameis have success. Off the top of my head, I can already tell you, Jameis last year, we were favorites against Carolina. In Carolina, what happened? We lost, right? We were favorites against Atlanta, and we won by 1. So, no, we haven't, Pete. We haven't seen the success. Do not put him in those same positions you had him in last year. Because putting him in those situations last year, and both of those games are divisional opponents. This is a divisional opponent, so unbelievable recall by me. Putting him in those positions is not good. One of them, we got absolutely steamrolled in Carolina. Very embarrassing performance. And the other one, I believe that Atlanta, I'm pretty sure that was the big comeback. That was week 1, right? That was the huge comeback where we won at the end. I believe that's correct. Someone in the comments, let me know if I'm recalling that correctly. But the point is that he hasn't put Jameson in positions to succeed. So please don't utilize what we were doing before.
Jameis Winston is at quarterback against the Bucs.
I think we're going to kind of have to find out. But look, I think their philosophy on offense just has to change a little bit regardless of who's at quarterback. I think there needs to be more quick game. They need to try to do things to get the ball out quicker. I think
it's exactly what I was talking about with these like one read, quick, no decision making, just get the ball out to your playmakers. And that's not even factoring in how bad the offensive line is. This is strictly the scheme. I'm not even factoring in the offensive line being porous. Word of the day, porous. The offensive line is bad. How do you counteract that? Screens, you counteract that getting the ball out quick. Good news is we have a ton of people who that benefits. We already know about Kamara, the screens with him. We know about Shaheed, how we can use him creatively. But also Chris Olave and Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, that was like the whole thing when he set the record for receptions, was that they were all slant routes. Whatever. Give him, I don't care if he catches 215 slant routes in this game. Give him the slant routes. Let him do quick, boom, slant routes, get physical. Jameis puts the ball there. That also eliminates Jameis from throwing the ball into like triple coverage and double coverage. If he's throwing these short, quick, safe routes, and by safe, I mean as far as like Jameis holding the ball and things like that, I don't mean safe as far as the scheme. If he's doing that, we don't have to worry about Jameis chucking one up in double coverage or triple coverage because he's being pressured or he's running all over the place.
Alvin Kamara helps with some of that, but at some point they got to just make sure they're doing something to work around the deficiencies in the offensive line. That's the major issue to figure out. I think approaching the passing game a little bit differently can help with that. But I think that's the key to victory no matter who's at quarterback this week.
Derek Carr was a non-participant back-to-back days, but when we walked in there, and that's when they were starting to do stretches, we did see him take off his cleats and he was walking off with his helmet. So he might have been going through some version of walkthrough. He was listed as a non-participant today in practice, and I assume
we talked about this yesterday. He's not going to participate. He's not going to throw this week at all. Why would you do that? He's not going to throw until probably the morning of, maybe the night before, but this is going to be a true game time decision. This is going to be a legitimate, like you hear about game time decision all the time in fantasy football. This is straight up going to be the morning of. How's his shoulder feel, if he can get it going. I don't know. I'm kind of wavering on this. I think, gun to my head right now, I would say he plays. Right now, if I had to just pick one or the other, I would say he plays. I think he's going to try and tough it out, and I think you're going to see basically what we're saying with this offense, but with Derek Carr. It's going to be super short, super, restricted. A lot of running the ball if he does play. So the only way he doesn't play IMO is if there is, and that's in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. It's a little industry talk. The only way he doesn't play is if he is at real risk of re-injuring it, I think. Because otherwise, he's a tough guy. It's a pain tolerance thing. He was feeling better on Monday, so I would assume he's feeling a lot better by now. He wants to play, but it just worries me. It worries me to put him out there because then you're one hit, one wrong throw, one sack away from prolonging this whole thing. And do we really need to rush him back for Tampa, Houston, and New England? I don't know.
That's likely for the portion that happens after the warm-up period. But Derek Carr could potentially be back this week. He said he would be comfortable having not thrown all week and then being thrown out there on Sunday. But we'll see. I think Friday's practice will really show us more on what Derek Carr looks like.
I don't think so.
In these situations, I always feel like we see what they want us to see. I don't think there's ever a lot of mistakes in what we're able to see. So if they want us to think that Derek's playing, sometimes I wonder, are they showing us something to make us think he's going to play? But sometimes you just see things that you aren't supposed to see at the same time. So I don't really know what to make of that. I think he's going to try to play, though. Like, he's moving his arm around and stuff. Yeah. Like, I think that he does actually have every intent to play in this game. But I think the Saints need to be smart in this situation and just make sure, if he's ready to go, cool, he's ready to go. But I wouldn't push it too much. I'd protect him from himself. And I think you got to protect your season by not being too aggressive with this situation.
Yeah, agreed. Exactly what I was saying. Couldn't agree more. He's going to try and play. Like I see a lot of that. I see a lot of the conversation right now is if he can play, he'll play, or he's going to try and play. We know that. Like, we know he's going to try and play. If you give the athlete the choice, they're always going to try and play. Situations like this, you have to protect them. You have to protect them from themselves. That's why you have a medical staff. That's why you have trainers. They should be evaluating him and assessing the risk. I think if he's anything under 90%, why play him? You know, this isn't Friday Night Lights. Like, you don't get bonus points for being tough. You don't get bonus points for gritting it out. That's just such a, you know, to be like, well, you know, if he can, he should. It's like, well, I mean, there's more to it. There's more at stake. Like, this is the NFL. This isn't 2A football in Northwest Louisiana. You know, like this is something where if he's 85% and another week will get him to 100%, give him the other week. Who cares? If he's 95% and he can roll, let him go then. Fine. But this is you have to be cautious with this kind of stuff because it is on a razor's edge. Do we wait? WEIGHT, not wait as in take our time. Do we wait the Tampa Bay game equal to the rest of the season? Because I sure don't. We can win this game with Jameis. And if we go 3-1 and we give Derek Carr another week to get healthy and we can focus on the rest of the season, to me, that seems like the valuable play. That seems like what we should do versus rushing Carr back to play at 80% to take on a Tampa Bay team. Yeah, to me, there's not much there. And I hope and I would assume the medical staff and the trainers, you know, agree with me.
I think the Saints are going to be smart with safety Jordan Howen as well. He's a rookie who had a finger injury. He played through it after injuring it in practice 2 weeks ago. Sounds like he might have re-injured it in the game in Green Bay. We haven't seen him at practice, but we have seen Lonnie Johnson working next to Tyrann Mathieu back there as the two safeties, and then Jonathan Abram kind of shadowing Lonnie Johnson wherever he went. Tyrann Mathieu very vocal with Lonnie, making sure he's up to speed. But Lonnie Johnson is a different safety. He doesn't look like Marcus May. He doesn't look like Jordan Howen. He almost looks like a tight end that runs like a wide receiver, is how Joe Woods explained him. And we had a chance to talk with Joe Woods today about what he's seen from him that makes him confident if Lonnie Johnson had to go.
He's a very...
All right, we're gonna skip the Lonnie Johnson talk. We're going to keep this to the Jameis Winston, Derek Carr conversation. You know, hey, hey, good luck, Lonnie Johnson. Big Lonnie Johnson fans here, okay? But you know, we're going to monitor this closely, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard to do a game preview. It's hard to really figure out this game until we know who the quarterback's going to be. It will be a game time decision. It really will be. I have a feeling we're going to release our Tampa Bay New Orleans preview video at 10 a.m. Sunday morning. Like it's going to be up against the clock, and even then we may not know what's going on. But I think that is the path for success for either Jameis or Carr. This is the game the coaches have to win. The coaches get paid a lot of money for a reason, and this is the reason. Get creative. Go in with a scheme. You have an injured player or a backup. In both situations, like, you have to lean on other people. You have to, like I said, you have to be creative here. You have to get Shaheed involved. He can't have 0 receptions again. You have to get Michael Thomas involved. You have to know that Carr's limited if he plays. So which plays are we going to call that, you know, is shorter, is quicker? What does that offense look like? And what's our packages look like if that's what we're calling and that's our scheme? But I mean, this is a game plan kind of game. You win these games with your game plan. And we see this reminds me of the game, I think it was 2 years ago, when Buffalo and New England played. And it was like 70-mile-an-hour winds. And New England won the game. And Mac Jones threw 3 passes. He might have threw 1 pass. But New England knew how they had to win. They game planned and schemed it up. And they won that game against Buffalo by straight up saying, we're not going to throw. We're not going to throw into this wind. That's ridiculous. And they created a whole different game plan, focused on the run and focused on stopping Buffalo, and they got the win. That's this kind of game. You have to game plan and you have to scheme. You can't just roll the ball out there and say, well, we're going to run the same plays we always run. We're going to have the same scheme we always have. There's too many variables in this game. With Carr's shoulder, Winston maybe starting, Kamara just coming back. There's too much happening. So the spotlight's on the coaches. There really is. Let me know in the comments below what you think, ladies and gentlemen. How do you think we should game plan this game? How do you think we should scheme up this game? Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.